perspective so important? Somebody please explain to me what is so important about perspective? What is perspective? What is perspective? What is perspective? Somebody please give me some perspective on what perspective is? What perspective is? Hey, what's up guys? Nigel Ford here, founder of Impeccable Perspectives. I just thought since I got a little bit of momentum rolling with my other video there that I would start doing a little vlog here on my YouTube. Got a couple of subscribers now, and thank you to everyone who subscribed and liked my last video. I really do appreciate that. So today I want to talk about perspective, since perspective is kind of the whole thing I got going here with Impeccable Perspectives. So I want to talk about some key points with perspective, because perspective is really deep and there's a lot that you can talk about when it comes to perspective. So the key things I want to talk about are what is perspective? What is perspective? Define perspective as an adjective and as a noun. And why is it so important? Why is perspective so important? What can we learn from it? What can we pull out of learning about perspective, and how can we apply that to our everyday life to grow as people, to grow into better versions of ourselves in our journey of personal and professional development? Hi, I'm here to tell you why perspective is so important. Hi, I'm Perspective, and I can let you know why I'm so important. I'm not Perspective, I'm Nigel, but I can still tell you why perspective is so important. The way I like to use perspective is as an adjective, describing somebody who has the ability to step back from a situation or from their own perspective of a situation and view it from multiple different viewpoints, whether it be from another person or that's in the situation, or a completely separate third-party viewpoint. Perspective is more commonly used as a noun, and it is just the viewpoint of a particular situation, or your stand on something, your opinion on something or someone, right? So I like to use it as an adjective because I like to describe somebody as having impeccable perspective, or that guy has some really great perspective. So a good example of that would be, let's say Sarah has grown up just in Arizona, and she's lived her entire life within the United States. She's never really left Arizona at all. So she wouldn't really have a great perspective of what it's like to live somewhere else. However, you have John, who grew up in a third world country, and he came to the United States and lived in New York, and then moved to California, and then now he's living in Florida. And since he's been in Florida, he's been able to study abroad in Europe and over in Australia, right? So you would say that John has much greater perspective than Sarah, because John knows what it's like to live in a third world country or in Europe or Australia or different states, as opposed to Sarah, who has only lived in one place. So at Impeccable Perspectives, what we want to help people maybe in Sarah's situation do is either experience things or get into the mindset or the frame of mind of somebody who has a broader experience, either through talking to that person or studying a certain subject, and that can benefit our life in so many different ways. Moving on here, I'm actually using this lamp as some good lighting, because we actually don't have central lighting here in our barracks, just this thing, which isn't even an AC. It just is there. With the idea of impeccable perspectives, we believe we can actually transform people's lives by helping them understand how vital perspective is in their life first and foremost, and then following that up with allowing them to immerse themselves in a community and a culture that is constantly introducing them to other people and other things that broaden their perspective. So awareness is huge, right? We want to help people become aware of what their current perspective is, their limited scope view of the world. In certain areas, I'm sure it's extremely limited, and I'm sure in other areas it might be a lot more vast. So once they can tap into that knowledge, once they can tap into the awareness of where their scope of perspective is limited and where it might be a little more vast, then they can learn not only then they know not only where they need to expand their perspective, but where they can pass on the perspective that they have onto other people, which is the whole concept, right? So if I'm sitting here and I have a vast knowledge base on music, and I know a lot about music, but I don't know a whole lot about politics, then I can come into the Impeccable Perspectives establishment, and I can find the right person, or I can talk to the members of the staff, and I can figure out who I need to talk to, or they can point me in the right direction of what books I need to read or what seminars I need to attend, so I can broaden my knowledge on politics. So awareness is huge. So we want people to first understand exactly what perspective is, how I like to use it as an adjective of having the ability to step out of your frame of mind and view a certain situation or a certain person, or really anything, to view anything from multiple different standpoints, not just a standpoint of your own. Perspective is important because it increases our awareness of what is out there, and the more that we're aware of what's out there, the more equipped we are within ourselves to properly handle situations. And we all know, we can all think back to situations that we didn't really handle that well, and we're like, oh, if I only knew this, then I would have been able to handle this situation so much better. And that's kind of what perspective does. But I think as an adjective, if you're someone who has great perspective, it doesn't necessarily mean you know all the knowledge, but it's more like a skill set that can be developed, that you can, in the moment, have enough experience to slow a situation down, at least in your own head, and think like, how can I gain perspective on this? Let me ask the right questions. Let me talk to the right people. Let me gain a little bit more perspective on this before I react. You know what I mean? Like, somebody does something that irritates you, before you just come right back at them for something and attack them for this and that and start accusing people left and right. Maybe through your experience you learn, hold on, perspective is important. Let me gain some perspective first, and let me get like the story straight, and then I can come at this in a lot more effective way without burning bridges or creating bad blood with anybody. I think the common antonym of perspective is like narcissism or like self-centeredness. The one thing we want to stay away from when it comes to perspective is the self-centered, all about me idea, where people are so wrapped up in how they feel and how a certain situation affects them, they tend to forget about other people entirely. And it's okay, like, everybody does that, but the more we can stray away from that, the more prosperity and success we're gonna find in life, because it's a survival tactic. It's our go-to, it's our default mode network in our brain literally does that so that we can survive. Like, we are at nature, we're animals who are just trying to survive our everyday life. So when mayhem happens, when stress and pressure of everyday life happens, automatically we look at situations to how can we get out of it? How can we get out of this with as minimal stress as possible, and how can we survive? But in this day and age, we don't really need to have that self-centered view for like 99% of the stress and pressures and struggles that we go through on a daily basis. We really don't. And what perspective, becoming fluent and the ability of having great perspective, what that allows us to do is it allows us to step away from that self-centered point of view and let our frame of mind expand to the idea of, okay, what do others think about this? How do others see this situation? How are other people viewing this person? And that really allows us to lead. That allows us to become a better leader. That allows us to lead ourselves into a better place, a better frame of mind. Ultimately, we're going to be happier because we're going to see not only ourselves prosper, but we're going to see the people around us prosper. We're going to see the people around us are going to be more understanding. They're going to be calmer. We're going to be definitely more understanding. That's what perspective is. Perspective is understanding more about the situations around us, because we're not just viewing it from one point of view, we're viewing it from multiple points of view, right? More often we can really start viewing situations as a wholesome community. I just want to give you guys a quick tour of my living situation so you can get some perspective on what it's like to be me in my current living situation, being in the military and deployed overseas. Yeah, basically this is where I live, military, we gotta keep our bed nice and neat, keep our uniforms there nice and folded, keep the family there, always remembering them, gotta have lots of books as an entrepreneur, right? We have roommates in very close proximity, but yeah, very humble living situation, like I said, always got the family, and that's just about it. We got a little bit of a storage space situation here. Got my skateboard and we got a bathroom. All right, and here we have the digital audio workstation where I sit here and I create all of the original content that you hear in the background of my videos, so I don't have to worry about copyright or anything like that. I got my MacBook Pro and I have lots of different software on here, so I can upload a bunch of different sounds here to my Machine Micro 3 beat pad. Got lots of different, I got a jazz guitar loaded up right now. Pretty cool. And then you got the complete control. Pretty neat stuff. And you got the JBL speaker and you got the Beats headphones. Right, so how would we be using perspective in our everyday life? So let's say we're at work and our coworker is just kind of rude. They're just a little bit rude to you. Now, we might want to say something like, were you raised with manners or something like that, but usually it's not the most appropriate thing to say. And this is where perspective can really come in and play a huge role in not just how we handle the situation, but also how we deal with the emotions that rise up when, say, somebody were to act that way towards us, because it's not like we're all just going to be super cool when that happens. If somebody's rude to us, usually we get a little bit heated. I know, at least I do for sure. If somebody's rude to me, it just makes me upset. I want to say something to that person and be like, well, what gives you the right to not treat me like a human being, right? So this is where perspective is really key. So if we can take a step out of our own frame of mind and just think about how what they did upset us, because that's a very self-centered point of view, and that's what we're trying to stray away from with perspective. We're trying to step away from that self-centered point of view, right? And if we can think, why are they acting like this? Why, they must be having a bad day, right? So maybe I can talk to them. Maybe I can figure out what's really going on. If at the root of things they're just a rude person, I don't think so. I think most people know how to treat people correctly, but they get caught up in their everyday life. And if we can try to gain that perspective of why they're acting that way, it can do tremendous things for us. Another way that we can use perspective to assist us in our journey of growing ourselves in a very applicable real-life manner is let's say you are applying for a position at your current job, or you're applying for a new job, or really anything where you might need to kind of sell yourself to somebody. A great way for somebody to really listen to you or be open to hear what you have to say, or open to accepting you onto their team is for you presenting yourself the way that they would want to hear it. And the easiest way for you to figure out to do that, because you're not a mind reader, but the easiest way to do that is to kind of step into their perspective, right? So are they the owner of the company? So you really got to learn about that person or that organization and then you got to start working your frame of mind around as if you were that person and you were sitting on the other side of the table interviewing, right? I think the best way we can gain perspective as individuals is through asking questions. I mean, there's not really many other ways to gain it. You know, it depends on how you're looking at it. You know, if you're trying to gain perspective of just like the world, I mean, yes, you can go to different places, but you're still going to need to ask questions. Whether or not you're asking them aloud to other people, you're still asking questions to yourself in your mind. If you're going somewhere else and then you're looking at the massive building in a different culture and you're looking at like how it was shaped, and you're asking your head, hey, why did they do this? Why is this building look this way? And you're going to learn about the culture just through asking those questions. So one of the greatest things we can do in our journey of gaining perspective is asking questions. And if we get really good at asking questions to the right people, then they can give us the answers that we need in order to gain the most perspective, right? Oh, goodness gracious. All right, well, that just about wraps this up. I can't wait to edit this and get it out to you guys, and hopefully you can watch it a couple of times and you can learn more about perspective on your own. You can look up different various talks and articles that might be out there on the internet, and then hopefully we can get together. We can create this community, and we can start inviting others with more perspective to come around, and we can all grow together. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you think about perspective. What is your definition? Why do you think it's important? And how have you used it in your life to help you? Also, leave a comment letting me know below what you want me to do next. What video, what do you want me to talk about? Alright guys, peace and love. Thank you for watching the video. God bless. Take care.